And time for Friday morning's latest news headlines with Sally Swinfin.
The Derby boss of a babywear company has taken on the taxman and won. HMRC had argued that the Snuggle bundle was a blanket, so had to be taxed. Mike Edwards believed it was children's clothing and shouldn't. Mr Edwards took them to a tribunal after teaching himself tax law and won. The firm's been awarded around £30,000.
Have you ever got money back from the taxman? You've been involved in an argument with the taxman. It's a bit little man versus big man, isn't it? And the taxman, of course, has had some big fish to fry with businesses and international banks. And recently it was Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs versus Snuggle Bundle. Are you familiar with the Snuggle Bundle? It's a baby lifting wrap, a blanket with handles, if you like, so you can lift a baby without waking them. The makers, the bosses from Derby, say it's baby wear. The taxman said it was bedding. The difference is 20% of the cost in terms of VAT. Child's clothing is VAT exempt, blankets aren't. Well, the makers of Snuggle Bundle took HMRC to tribunal and won. They're going to get £30,000 back. Mike Edwards is the managing director.
Well, when we first started the company, we obviously had to decide whether or not it was zero rated or standard rated. And we looked at all the laws and we thought, yes, it's classified as a garment.
For VAT, we're talking about.
For VAT, yeah. And it wraps around the baby from the back and it has a hood and it has a tie in the front, rather like a dressing gown. So we thought, yes, that's definitely zero rated.
Because babies' clothes, children's clothing, zero rated for VAT.
Yeah. Now, being two men, and we thought we want to make it look cuddly, etc., so we still called it a blanket. After all, he got the idea from a blanket. And they said, well, you call it a blanket. And we said, but what it's called doesn't necessarily matter in law. For example, if you had a pen and you're writing with it, it's a pen. If you take it outside and stab somebody with it, it's a lethal weapon. So what it's used for actually is what law defines it as, its function. And our product was definitely for lifting and laying a baby and wrapping it around, and all day long it's spent in the wrap as mothers went about their business.
This is a key issue, though. I mean, this has become about a large amount of money.
Oh, yes. I mean, as a small company, every now and then we get a bill for about £8,000, and that's really hard to cope with when you've got huge amounts of stock.
Because they deemed it was a luxury, if you like, a novelty item, not a piece of clothing.
Well, that's right. But even a blanket, this is what we were trying to argue, there is a blanket on the market which has a hood, and that's zero rated because it becomes a gown. And a lot of gowns are made out of blanket material. So even a blanket, even though it's standard rated, once you put a hood on it and you can wear it, it becomes zero rated.
You said you were a teacher.
Yes.
Come inventor, and now businessman. You've clearly had to kind of teach yourself a fair bit of law and finance as well.
Well, yes, I've had to study all the VAT law around zero rating and children's clothing, and I had to present my own case in court.
Why?
Because we just couldn't afford a lawyer. We tried to use a lawyer.
Was that scary?
It was and it wasn't. I mean, when you've been a teacher and you dealt with teenagers, it takes a lot to scare you. But it was nerve-wracking, I must say. And it was odd because the judge we had was obviously completely unbiased, and he wasn't somebody who did VAT law. So I was literally having to explain the law to him, which was more nerve-wracking than I thought it would be.
That's a bit surreal, isn't it, really?
Yes, it was, yeah.
And how long did this whole thing drag on?
For 2.5 years. It was a long time. I mean, I've got what's called a document bundle about 2.5 inches thick.
And for the business, in the meantime, what was happening? Were you having to pay up your VAT? What?
Well, yes, we was having to pay the VAT. We weren't adding it to the product, so we was having to cover the cost. So we were losing a lot of income. And when you have to buy whole loads, of stock from abroad, it does actually add up, and you have to really work hard to get enough money to buy the next load of stock. So it was really curtailing us.
But the outshot is you've won.
The outshot is we've won. We feel good about that because obviously to beat the VAT man is a real feeling of success, and to make case history as well. So that's good. That's a good feeling.
Does that mean at some point there has been or is going to be a cheque from HMRC for tens of thousands of pounds? Will you photograph it and frame it or something?
Yes. Well, we've already got that cheque now, thank God. We're still fighting for another 13,500. But that should come soon, hopefully.
And obviously, it's a crucial issue to your business and to the Snuggle Bundle. Do you think it means anything on a broader scale? There are lessons to be learned.
Well, I think, as I said to HMRC, the biggest problem was I couldn't get proper answers, and I couldn't sit down and say, can you show me exactly how it doesn't suit the law? And all I got was that, well, our opinion is it's not zero rated. And I kept saying, but here's the product, here's the features, here's examples of people using it all day long as a gown, etc. And they wouldn't really engage properly in that discussion.
And now, I mean, a lot of lost sleep, I imagine, in the intervening time. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great now. I feel like the company can really move forward. I can get on with what I wanted to do. We've lost hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of potential by not moving abroad. You see, the baby market, what people don't realise, is actually very hard to succeed in. It's only 1.4% birth rate. So you're trying to get 1% of 1%. And so the big growth of the company is, in fact, export, because you have to expand your market if you've only got 1.4% of your own market.
It's Mike Edwards from Derby, the man behind the Snuggle Bundle that took on the HMRC and won.
BBC Radio Derby Travel News.